Today, we're diving into one of the most divisive, beloved, and downright chaotic horror franchises in all of movie history, Halloween. From timeless classics to straight-up cinematic war crimes, this series has delivered everything from genre-defining masterpieces to movies that make you wonder if Michael Myers should have just stayed in that burning basement. I'm gonna be ranking every single film in the franchise from worst to best based on rewatchability, kills, atmosphere, and how much they actually feel like a Halloween movie. Now, with all that being said, remember, this is just my list, and we all get something different out of these movies, so leave your personal ranking of the franchise in the comments below, and let's get right into it. Coming in at the absolute bottom of the barrel is Halloween Resurrection. And let's be honest here, this movie doesn't just fumble the Michael Myers legacy, it goes ahead and punts it straight into oncoming traffic. I mean, you could practically hear the filmmakers patting themselves on the back for the boldness and bravery it took to kill off Laurie Strode in the opening minutes of the film, but all that did was highlight how they had zero clue what the audience really cared about in the first place. None of the characters trapped in this dumb reality show house are remotely likable, and Michael's motivation feels completely non-existent, like he's just there because he's got nothing better to do. Now, I won't lie, there are a few moments where Busta Rhymes actually kind of makes this one a little watchable for all of the wrong reasons, but in terms of storytelling, this isn't just a bad sequel, it's a full-on betrayal of everything that came before it. Taking the number 12 spot is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And this movie is basically the cinematic equivalent of leaving the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth inning because it is such a missed opportunity. We get Looney Tunes sound effects for the bumbling cops, non-stop psychic visions from Jamie Lloyd, and Dr. Loomis screaming at a child for the majority of the film's runtime. Rachel's death is pretty much a massive misfire, and her replacement character, Tina, is so irritating that you're not going to be sure who you're actually supposed to be rooting for in the end. I wish that's where the list of head-scratching blunders stopped, but the mask is terrible. Michael keeps showing up in geographically impossible locations, and it spends way too much time inside of cars for some reason, instead of building any real suspense. It's not scary, it's not fun, and it does absolutely nothing with the interesting ending the previous entry so graciously blessed it with. It's a total waste of a film. Taking the number 11 spot is Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. And this one takes a complete swing for the fences with its cult plotline and tries to make sense of Michael's evil through a rune-based curse, which is obviously as bonkers as it sounds, but I kind of have to respect the ambitious pivot here. You've got characters running around an underground laboratory escape room for a good amount of the time, and random heavy metal riffs kicking in during tense scenes for absolutely no reason. It's messy, it's incoherent, and it rewrites the franchise mythology in ways that make your brain spin a little bit, but there's this odd, chaotic charm to how massively it overcommits to all of its nonsense. At the very least, we get to see the one character who's even more evil than Michael himself, John Strode, meet his demise, and Paul Rudd is along for the ride with us, so it's definitely a train wreck, but it's a semi-entertaining train wreck. Coming in at number 10 is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and this movie is what happens when a director has full creative control and absolutely no leash put on him. Sometimes that's a beautiful thing, but here it's mostly bewildering more than anything else. Almost every aspect that made his first Halloween remake work for me either gets abandoned or cranked way past its breaking point. From Michael seeing visions of phantom horses to Dr. Loomis becoming a narcissistic talk show villain. Laurie spends the entirety of the film screaming, crying, or yelling at someone, and by the end, I thought I could feel a migraine coming on. Michael Myers straight up teleports around like he's Jason Voorhees, and the tone jumps from gritty realism to dream logic every 5 minutes. There are definitely glimmers of style in here for sure, but ultimately, this sequel feels more like a scatterbrained fever dream than an actually coherent horror movie. Coming in at the number 9 spot is Halloween Kills, and this one works a whole lot better if you view it as the middle chapter of a trilogy rather than a standalone entry, because as its own movie, it's basically just Michael roaming around town like he's filming a greatest hits montage. The firefighter sequence is undeniably awesome and gives us one of the most brutal and cinematic showcases of Michael's raw power in the entire franchise, but outside of moments like those, the movie is just random kill scenes stitched together in between people chanting "Evil dies tonight" like they're at a protest rally. The character decisions are laughably bad, and the subplot with the mob chasing the completely wrong guy in the hospital just feels like they needed a way to pad the runtime a bit. It's entertaining chaos, but it's still just chaos. Love the 1978 flashback and think it's super well done, but outside of that, there's just no shred of a story to be found here. Taking the number 8 spot is Halloween 4, The Return of of Michael Myers. In this movie brings Michael back to the basics with a solid atmosphere and a cool concept of evil passing into the next generation, but it's dragged down by a roster of cannon fodder characters who all have the collective brain power of a kitchen knife. The kills also aren't really all that memorable. Now, that's not to say that everything that happens while Michael is inside the Meeker house going on an absolute rampage isn't a total blast, but the mask this time around looks like it belongs to the hamburger helper hand and completely kills the intimidation factor every time he's on screen. Still, there's an undeniable charm to the eerie Halloween vibes, and Danielle Harris delivers far and away the strongest child performance from any of these movies. The finale twist where Jamie seemingly becomes the next embodiment of evil is one of the boldest endings in the history of the franchise. Not everything works, but you got to admire the guts of it all. Coming in at the number 7 spot is Halloween H2O 20 Years Later. And this movie probably has my favorite opening sequence in the entire franchise, with Michael breaking into the nurse's house and just barely avoiding the grasp of the cops. It just gives off those immaculate fall slasher vibes. But after that dynamite beginning, the energy slows way down, the kills are pretty minimal, and it feels much more like a teen drama thriller than it does a full-on Michael Myers rampage. Now, the mask situation here is downright criminal. You're able to constantly see his eyes, and I swear to God, it looks like Dana Carvey wearing a Spirit Halloween mask at times. Still, Jamie Lee Curtis gives a great performance as a trauma-ridden Laurie Strode trying to reclaim control of her life, and the face-off between her and Michael is a pretty satisfying one. It's a respectable entry that just doesn't go nearly as hard as it should have gone, but I still enjoy my time with it. It's probably the breeziest film the franchise has to offer. Coming in at the number 6 spot is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and this movie is like a wild, creative Halloween side quest that would probably be universally liked if it had literally any other title attached to its name. Instead of Michael Myers, we get killer masks, robot enforcers, and an evil corporation turning kids' faces into insect smoothies on a live television broadcast, and honestly, that's kind of an incredible cocktail. It might overstay its welcome a little bit, but more than anything, it feels like a feature-length episode of The Twilight Zone mixed with a paranoid 80s sci-fi thriller, and the shameless weirdness it brings to the table is what has kind of turned it into a cult classic after all this time. The plot is legitimately ridiculous, but its commitment to seeing it through is definitely admirable, and the only reason it took decades to get the props it deserves is because audiences were expecting Michael, not mass children sacrifice energy. Taking the number 5 spot is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this one because it was the first movie of the franchise that I ever saw and was maybe even the very first slasher I was ever introduced to. This film is a brutal, gritty reboot that digs deep into Michael Myers' childhood trauma, giving us a version of the character who's less mysterious shape and more monster forged by the evils of this world. I know some fans absolutely hate that approach, but I personally find it fascinating to watch this hulking beast slowly evolve into the iconic killer we all know. The savagery is cranked up to 11, the kills feel super vicious and personal, and Malcolm McDowell brings a fresh and compelling take on Dr. Loomis. Plus, it's the only movie in the franchise where Michael Myers is walking around to Tom Sawyer by Rush, and that alone deserves a few style points, but it's mean, it's raw, and it's ugly. Coming in at the number 4 spot is Halloween Ends, and this is easily the most controversial film in the entire franchise, and I totally get why. It obviously wasn't really the finale anyone was expecting. We all walked in thinking we were gonna get one last epic showdown between Laurie and Michael, but instead we got a story about how the evil of Michael Myers infected a community so deeply that it began creating its very own monster. Personally, I respect the hell out of the creative swing. This movie tries something bold by exploring how trauma manifests in new forms, rather than just repeating the same old tried and true slasher recipe. I can admit that it probably shouldn't have been the final film in a trilogy, but the kills are still super gnarly. John Carpenter delivers the best soundtrack of the series, and the atmosphere is just dripping with angsty dread. You don't have to agree with me, but I genuinely believe people are going to reevaluate this one in the coming years. Coming in at the number 3 spot is Halloween 2, and this one picks up literally seconds after the original ends to deliver us an extended night of bloody mayhem, turning a quiet little hospital into Michael Myers' personal slaughterhouse. The first half does a good job showing us the aftermath of his rampage and tosses in a sibling twist for good measure, but once Michael barrels through a glass door and takes out a stubborn policeman, the movie kicks it into high gear from there on out. The kills are creative, the atmosphere is tense, and the shot of blood streaming from Michael's eye holes during the finale has become pretty much iconic at this point. Even if it's not as tight or as elegant as the original, it's the only sequel that truly captures the same vibe and mood as Carpenter's entry, and it still feels like a very worthy continuation of that fateful night. The perfect example of a sequel that doesn't reinvent the wheel, but knows what we want to see. Might have the best looking Michael as well. Taking the number 2 spot is Halloween 2018. And this movie brought Michael Myers back to his roots in the best possible way, acting as a direct sequel to the original and ignoring all of the messy timeline baggage that came with the previous entries. The Shape actually feels scary again. He's relentless, unpredictable, and eerily silent as he stalks these packed suburban streets on Halloween night for a second crack at his usual victim. Laurie Strode is reimagined as a battle-scarred survivor preparing for the inevitable this go-around, and Jamie Lee Curtis fits into that role well and brings a lot of that raw intensity to the character. The kills are brutal, the mask is fantastic, the tension is expertly crafted, and the one-take tracking shot through the neighborhood is modern slasher perfection. After almost 10 years out of the spotlight, this movie didn't just revive the franchise, it reminded all of us that Michael Myers is the true king of the slasher villains. And finally, taking the number 1 spot is the gold standard, the blueprint, the legend, Halloween 1978. And this film isn't just the best in the franchise, it pretty much defined the slasher genre as we know it today. Who knew that the first time we saw a guy wearing a bleached Captain Kirk mask and a mechanic onesie would still be his most compelling appearance to date? But there's something super addicting about watching him operate and trying to figure out what's going on inside that head of his. Laurie Strode acts as the perfect final girl here. She's intelligent, resourceful, and relatable, making every close call she gets herself into feel that much more terrifying. The fall atmosphere, that dim jack-o'-lantern glow, and the simple but bone-chilling score all work together in tandem to create pure cinematic horror bliss. This isn't just a movie that you watch once a year, it has become a ritual that signals the start of spooky season itself. And there you have it, guys, my ranking of all 13 films in the Halloween franchise, from absolute dumpster fires to horror cinema perfection and everything else in between. So now you know how my list shakes out, but I want to hear what yours looks like. There are literally infinite ways to rank these movies, so let me know in the comments below what order you have all these bad boys in. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.